everybody for joining us for our first webinar of 2025. Today's topic is warm floors, but cool questions. We want to answer your electric floor heating questions. And if you have any during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat. There's also a question and answer feature of Zoom, so you can use that as well. If we don't see it right away, we'll definitely get to those questions by the end of the presentation. We do have a couple in the chat. Okay, that's Olivia sending. Awesome. All right. So looking at the webinar outline, today we're going to be talking about all of our different floor heating systems, and we're going to go over some of the options that are available to you and some of the different installation methods when working with cable. We're also going to talk about our smart plans, and then at the end, we're going to talk about our control options and all of our online tools and resources. So our first product that we're going to be going over is definitely our most popular, I'd say, and it is the Temstone Flex Roll. And this is a really popular product for a good reason. It's going to offer quick installation and lots of even heat distribution. So Scott, can you kind of tell us a little bit about how the Temstone Flex Roll works?
Yeah, it's a it's a mesh product, and the mesh is made out of fiberglass, so it does not have a memory really. So, like if you were dealing with a plastic netting of some sort, that plastic netting, if it's stored in a roll, when you lay it out, it's going to want to curl back up. Well, the fiberglass doesn't do that, so it's much easier to work with, and it lays flatter than those plastic meshes do. So that's one thing you're going to want to look at. So the cable's pre-spaced, so all you have to do is just roll the product out, follow your installation plan, cut the mesh, never ever cut the wire, and turn it, and that will fill your space by doing those cuts and turns of the mesh. So it's a very quick installation. You roll it out, you secure it to the subfloor after you get it all laid out. What I see a lot of people do at the beginning when they're doing their first couple floors is they will, like if it's saying to do a 7-foot panel, then do a 6-foot, 8-foot panel, then a 7-4. What they'll do is they'll do the first panel, then they'll attach it to the subfloor, then move on to the next one and attach it to the subfloor. Then when they get to the end, they either have too much or too little because they made the cut in the wrong place. So then they've got to go back and rip all the stuff up and start over again. So that's why you do your cuts and turns, lay it out, make sure it fits, then you attach it to your subfloor. Don't ask me how I learned that, but it has stuck with me for a great amount of time. So just a simple hint there for you when you're doing your first installation. So it adds very little floor height. Also, it's only, what is it, 1/8 of an inch thick. So it's very slim.
Yes.
And it's easy to work with.
Absolutely. It's really great for if you're a professional, if you're doing a professional job, or if you're a DIY installer, you're a homeowner and you just want to do it yourself, it's going to be a pretty simple job. Next, we're looking at our Temstone ruler cable, and this is a relatively new product that we're offering that we are super excited about. Scott, can you kind of tell us, I know you worked a lot on this product. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes it so special?
Oh yeah, it took a long time to get it to get it here because we like to do things right the first time. So we did a lot of design and that sort of thing and made it as easy to use as possible. And the main thing is that it's easy to install into a membrane if you decide to use a membrane. It's also easy to install into strips, into grip strips, which we spend a lot of time designing also. We're going to be talking about them later. But the good thing about the Temstone ruler cable, it has markings every 1/2 inch, so you know exactly where you are when you're using the cable at all times. So let's say how many feet, how many inches you are, and you'll use that with our installation plans to know exactly if you're in the right place or if you're using too much or using too little. And we're going to talk about later how to keep that in mind while you're installing it. It's easier to bend. It's a little bit easier to bend. So it's easier to put into Prodeso, the membrane. So it's a great product. It's got a lot of features to it. And the numbers are on a yellow cable, which looks like a ruler or a tape measure, and it's really easy to read. So it's a great product.
Yes, absolutely it is. And this is a pro exclusive product. So this is only available to our trade professional customers. So if you are a trade pro and you want to get working with ruler cable, definitely reach out to us. Our next product is our Temstone Easy Mats, and these are really similar in concept to the Temstone Flex Rolls, just usually used in a little bit of a different way. The easy mats are usually used for really specific areas. We usually call it like spot heating, or if you're looking at getting, just a high traffic area, somewhere that you're often walking, standing, sitting, something like that, is going to give you the warmth where you actually need it the most, which makes it super energy efficient. It's going to focus on the actual parts of the room that you're using without having to heat the entire space. And these are also, since they're pre-sized, they eliminate that need that you had talked about, Scott, for the on-site cutting and turning and things like that. So they're really ideal for these small spaces. They're not designed to be cut and turned. They're just designed to be simple. Lay it out and put the thin set on it. You're good to go.
Yeah, for beginners, and we talk to a lot of beginners every day. That's why they call us every day, and why we're very, very busy here in the wintertime. And what people need, a lot of new people don't understand is that you can't just put a strip of this floor heating down the middle of the floor in your room and expect the heat to spread sideways. It doesn't spread laterally. So where you put this product is the only place in your floor that'll be warm. It won't spread out. So you need to put it where you're going to be standing, because I've talked to a few people over my 15 plus years here, and they buy a strip and they put it right down the middle of the floor, and then they don't know why the rest of the floor isn't warm. We just thought it would spread out. Well, it doesn't. It only travels about 1.5 inches from each side of the wire. That's why the wires on the mesh are spaced at 3 inches, because you get 1.5 inches travel from this wire and 1.5 inches travel from that wire. And that's what gives you the 3 inch spacing, which gives you the nice, smooth, spread out heat between those wires.
Awesome. That's really great information. Thank you, Scott. And looking at our Temstone cable installation, we offer two different types of installation for our cable product. You don't have to use the membrane, so we do give you a lot of options. And this is kind of what it's going to look like, whether you're installing with the cable with the membrane or with our fixing or grip strips. And I really like this picture too because it also shows some of the areas that you want to be thinking about when you're planning out the project. For example, I know, Scott, we often deal with people who are, wanting to put heat under toilets, tubs, cabinets, things like that. And often you want to make sure, unless it's a floating cabinet like the one in the picture, you do want to make sure that everything that is a permanent fixture does not have heat underneath it.
Right. Yeah. Permanent fixtures. So if you have this vanity in this picture here on the left, the vanity is a floating vanity. So there's nothing resting on the floor. So that's why you see electric heat going under it. If that were a vanity that was on the floor, we wouldn't go under the vanity because the National Electric Code doesn't allow you to do that. But you would put a wire in the toe kick where there is open air there in the toe kick, so you don't get your toes cold while you're in front of the mirror. Also very, very important that you don't get too close to the wax ring of the toilet, because if you get too close to that, you'll know in about 2 or 3 weeks, because your floor will smell kind of funky, and that's because it's melted the wax ring, and that's the last thing you want to do. You're going to have to go to a rubber ring type thing. Also, with this product, with this cable, some companies require you buy the membrane. That's the only way they can install the product. Well, we know that every single floor doesn't need a membrane. So why pay the hundreds of extra dollars for the membrane when you don't need it? You can simply use the strips along the perimeter of the room and route the cable back and forth between it and save yourself a lot of money. So that's where you're going to want to talk to us, because we'll help you figure out, what should I really do here? Do I really need this? Do I not? How can I save money? That's the kind of thing that we do here. That's our value add as a company, is our expertise. We've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, we absolutely have. So this cable installation method of the grip strips, as shown here on the right, these are the grip strips you were talking. Will it change? There we go. These are the grip strips you were talking about, Scott, where we put a lot of time and money and energy into making sure that these are really, really helpful. They make the installation a lot easier.
Yeah, what they do is they grip the cable. So as you're running the cable up around the grip strip, once you run it in and push it down to make your turn, it doesn't automatically pull out like some of the less expensive ones do. Once you do that, it'll actually hold on to the cable. So when you make your turn, you don't lose all your tension. So, I mean, it's not you can't use it to climb mountains, right? Or to rappel down a wall. But the thing is, it helps you do the installation faster because you're not, it slipped back. I've got to redo it. Oh, it slipped back again. Imagine doing that, 500 or 600 times if you're doing a large installation. So that's one of the benefits of it. It also has holes in it that allow you to put screws or nails or whatever you want to put in there. That's what you can see those little white dots in there. So we've spent a lot of time and effort on designing these to make them easier for installations. You always want to stay away from those metal straps that you see some companies use, the metal straps. If you push down on them too tight, they can cause trouble to your wire. They can damage it. This is plastic. It's not going to do anything to your wire. It's going to hold it steady, and it's very, very easy to work with.
Yeah, and since it's so much easier to work with, it kind of makes that option of installing, just with the cable running it back and forth a little bit more accessible for people who are, maybe DIYing or working with a contractor who doesn't want to, you don't want to spend a ton of money, but you have some time and you want to install it. It's going to make it a lot easier on them.
Yeah, and with big spaces, if you're doing a big room and you're running the cable back and forth across that big room, you're also going to want to get some masking tape and just run, like if your cable's going this way, you want to put a strip of masking tape every 2 or 3 feet across that room, and that's going to hold it down, especially if you're going to do self-leveling. Because if you do a self-leveling application, that cable is going to want to float. And if your cable floats, then you're going to have to let it dry, and then you're going to have to put another layer of self-leveling on top of that. So please don't make that mistake. So stringing it back and forth across the whole room is fast, and it's just as fast to take inexpensive masking tape, boop, 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 and do it every 2 or 3 feet, and that's going to hold it down and hold it in place and also keep the spacing correct while you're either thin setting or tiling over the top.
Right. Now, our uncoupling membrane is our other option when you're looking at installing a cable, and this really simplifies the installation. It kind of does a similar thing where it's going to easily hold that cable in place while you're doing the install, and it's going to make that a little bit of a more flexible installation as well.
Yeah, and you're going to be attaching it to the subfloor. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be using modified thin set to attach it to the subfloor. Or it depends on the flooring, what the subfloor is. The instruction manual will say if you have this subfloor, use this type of thin set, this type of subfloor, use this type of thin set. So I can't tell you exactly what kind to use because I don't know what your application is going to be, but you use that thin set to hold it down, and then you can route the cables back and forth. The good thing about this product is you don't have to put the cable down and then cover it with thin set and come back the next day. You can literally just put this down, put the cable through it, and then start putting tile on top of it at the same time. So if you're doing a small room, you could knock out a small room in one day with this product instead of having to come back the second day to do it. So you're saving yourself a travel time and more installation time with that.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely a great option. Our other floor heating system that we have is our Environ, and this is designed for floating floors specifically. So, Scott, can you kind of tell us what that means? Is that how this gets laid out actually in, kind of the sandwich of the floor?
Yeah, it's just like a piece of ham between two pieces of bread. It's not attached to anything and nothing attaches to it. So you find out where your space that you're going to be heating, you put down a thermal sheet over that area because it has to have a pad under it. You can never ever put Environ between two hard surfaces. So if you have laminate with a hard bottom and a concrete subfloor, you can't put the Environ between there because it has to be able to sink into something to take the pressure off of the cable. So that's where thermal sheet comes in. You just lay thermal sheet out loosely. You don't need to attach it to the subfloor. You then take these flex rolls and you roll them out. You cut the aluminum reinforced film, and then it's not film, but it's a binder that holds the cable in place. And then you do your cuts and turns, very similar to Temstone. And then you just put your flooring on top of it to float. So everything in the room is floating. The thermal sheet, the Environ is not attached to it, it floats. And the laminate or the engineered hardwood or the whatever type of product you're going to use is going to float above that. It also can be used in America, in the US, between your carpet pad and your stretching carpet. So you just simply put your carpet pad down on the floor, you lay this product out, floating, it doesn't attach to anything. Then you put the carpet over it, you stretch it in, and there is your installation. This is the fastest product to install. LVT, you can't use it with LVT because LVT has very strict flatness rules, which this won't comply with. And if you look in the installation manual for most LVT, it'll say the heat must be embedded and must be a ½ inch distance from the LVT. That means you're using Temstone in self-leveling, ½ inch of self-leveling. So that's why you don't use Environ with LVT.
Thank you. That's awesome to know. And this is what you were talking about, Scott, that thermal sheet. So not only is it a really great option when working with Environ to add that sort of, comfort to the cables or protection, I should say, but it also works as a really great prevention of heat loss. So this is especially great when you're working with concrete slabs, correct?
Yes, you never want to put your heating cable directly on concrete because the concrete will pull the heat down and then your floors that are above the heat won't feel warm. Back in the old days, when we had to try to explain this to people, is like you are going to have to make your choice. If you put this cable directly down on the concrete, your floor is not going to be cold. If you put this thermal sheet on the concrete, then put the heat above it, your floor will be warm. So which would you rather have? You're going to all this time and expense to put the system in. Would you rather have a floor that doesn't feel cold or a floor that feels warm? You can see the difference here in this picture. On the left, oh, that doesn't feel cold, but on the right, it's, oh, this feels warm. And this is only after I took this picture years ago, and this was only after about 15 minutes. So you can see the temperature still haven't even gone into the 80s yet. It's on its way, but you can see the non-insulated area is blue and the cable is there. You just can't see it because all the heat's getting sucked down into the concrete. So that's where you see the difference between using it and not using it. We
Yes.
still we
Yes.
still get we still get calls from people that say, I put this in last year and I said I didn't want to use the thermal sheet. How can I get my floors warmer?
Yep.
Install thermal sheet, just like we
Definitely the way to
recommended,
go.
because that's the difference. You're going to get a floor that heats up maybe into the 70s as opposed to a floor that a lot of times you get into the mid 80s. So there's a big difference. That's a big difference when you have your bare feet.
Yes, it's very important. Our other option is our slab heating mats or cables, and this is really designed for new construction slab heating, or if you were doing a polished or a stamped concrete floor as your finished floor, this is a great option for you. It has widely spaced mesh so that you can allow for that concrete aggregate to pass through easily. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 1/4 inch maximum concrete aggregate,
No, 3/4.
3/4 inch.
Yeah.
I was kind of close,
You
right?
were, yeah.
Close enough. And it also offers a very easy installation. Scott, can you kind of tell us, what that looks like with the rebar and everything like that?
Well, you and I talked to the same gentleman yesterday about this type of floor because he wanted to heat his polished concrete floors and
Yes.
he's pouring the concrete and if you look, the difference between the mesh and the cable itself is the cable you can put at 3, 4, 5 inch spacing to adjust the watts per square foot. On the product itself, it is 3 inch spacing, which is about 20 watts per square foot. But if you get further away, you can reduce that down to 12 watts per square foot or 11. But the thing is, you want to put it on the rebar and you want the rebar to be halfway in your concrete pour. You never ever put the heat. You just don't lay the heat on the bottom layer of gravel and then pour 4 or 5 inches of concrete on top of it. The heat's not going to get up there to the floor. So you want to put the rebar on chairs or top hats or whatever they call them in your area. You can even use bricks or debris to hold that rebar up into the middle of the pour and then pour the concrete through it. And that way you're doing it all in one step and the concrete flows through it. You use it to fill up that 4 or 5 or however thick slab that you are going to be using, and that's how you get the heat. The one thing you have to remember is when you're putting this in, like if you're putting this in a bedroom, in a brand new bedroom, and you know that there's going to be a bookshelf over there on that wall, you're not going to want to put the cable from wall to wall. You're going to bring it off the wall to allow that bookcase, because you can't put anything permanent on over electric floor heating cable. So that's why you can't run it from one room to the other under the wall. Can't do that. And also, if you know you're going to have a wall or an area that is going to be a permanent fixture, then you don't heat under it. But that saves you some costs too, because it doesn't cost you as much to run and it costs less in materials.
Right. Yes, definitely a great option. And one of the benefits of working with us is that we offer our smart plans, and these are really designed for your peace of mind. It's going to really streamline that installation, give you every single step of it, and walk you through it from beginning to end before you even really begin the process of physically installing it. And you can make sure you're getting the coverage you want, everything like that. And this is usually turned around within about a business day. So this is really great for both our professional customers and our DIYers.
Yeah, so on this plan, there's some things that you want to notice to make sure that you get the product installed correctly. So if you go there in the upper left-hand corner, Lynn, you can see the T in a circle. That is your thermostat location. That's where the cable is going to start because the leads are 15 feet. So, or 12, I'm sorry, these are 12 feet. You want to make sure that this is within that distance so it gets across the floor and up to the thermostat. And that thermostat location, if you have the space and 2 or 3 weeks later, they say, you know what, we're going to put the power over there. So if that's the case, you would let us know where that is and we would redraw the plan for you. Because you can't, it's instead of you figuring out, well, what am I going to do now? Just tell us, just say, mark out the thermostat with a big black X and put a T in a circle where you want the thermostat to be now, and we will redo the drawing. Now,
Yep.
we talked about the markings on the cable, like each foot is marked, right? So if you take a look there along right there in the shower is one. That's a red number with a yellow highlight around it. Then in the upper left-hand corner is one that's 123 feet, 4 inches. Then if you go down a little bit to the right, you see one that's 322 feet, 4 inches. That's telling you when you get to this spot on the floor, that number that's highlighted should match up with the footage marking on your cable. That's how you know you're on the right pace. If you've used too much cable, at this point, you're never going to have enough at the end. So you can go, oh boy, I better think what I'm doing here. I think I might have done 2 inch spacing instead of 3. Then you look back there and go, that's why I've used so much cables, because I used 2 inches, which I should never do. And I needed to do 3. So you lift it up. It's better to find it out at that first marking of 123 feet than it is to find out at the very end that you have 6 feet missing or 25 feet too much cable. So that's what these numbers are for. For the numbers to match up correctly, you also have to pay attention to the green numbers on that. So if you go in the upper right-hand corner in the toilet area there, yeah, or right there, anywhere you see that, like under the 7 foot 2 and a half, you see 3.5 inches marked there. That's the space from the wall to the grip strip. Because if you get them too close to the wall, you're going to use more cable. If you get them too far away from the wall, you're going to have too much at the end. That's how all the calculations work, because you have to put the grip strips where it shows you. So look around the perimeter of that, 3.5 inches, then down to 2.5 inches. Then on the left side by the tub, it's 1 inch from the wall. And down here at the bottom is 6 inches from the wall. That all needs to be followed to make sure your cable fits.
Right. Every number on here is pretty important, so it's definitely important. We also recommend once you receive the smart plan from us, double check, triple check against the actual dimensions on the site. Make sure that everything is correct so that you don't end up with too much or too little cable.
Yeah, so we had a plan like this just yesterday or the day before, where they had started with a small tub and decided to put in this huge tub. Well, a huge tub takes up a lot more space on the floor. The more space it takes up on the floor, the less space there is available for the heating wire, which means they needed to get a shorter cable, because you can never ever cut the cable and shorten it. So what we had to do is we had to redo the plan and make sure that it went from a tub this big to a tub that big. You have to reduce the amount of cable that's in the floor. It just doesn't magically disappear. So that's something you want to make sure are the dimensions that we're doing today after 6 or 7 product changes or 6 or 7 design changes. Does this still match what we sent to Warmly Yours for our measurements? Oh no, we forgot to tell them that the tub doubled in size. Well, if the tub doubled in size, you're going to need a different spool of cable.
Right, absolutely. And this is just a little bit of a closer look. I guess I could have been on this page. I apologize. I didn't think about how this is much bigger. But this is a little bit of a closer look at those numbers you were talking about, Scott. And I also really like this because it shows some of the important information that the smart plan will include at the bottom. So it offers a lot of job information, just kind of the name of the space, the type of flooring, the type of control that we're quoting for you. And then it also offers a lot of really great electrical information. You can see it offers the operating cost, the breakers that will be needed for the job, as well as the total amperage and total wattage of the full system.
Yeah, there's a couple things on this plan that I want to bring up because they're common misconceptions about floor heat. First of all, not every floor heating job is 240 volts. Um, any job that is under 120 square feet, we're going to do in 120 volts because it only uses one space in your breaker panel, not 2 spaces in your breaker panel. And some people don't have 2 spaces extra, but they do have one. So that's why we always design in 120. 120 is just as effective as 240. 240 has no benefit over 120 except it allows you to cover 240 square feet on a 15 amp control as opposed to 120 square feet on a 15 amp control in 120. That's the only difference. It just gives you more space to cover. One other trick that was used here in this, if you go down into that lower left thing where it says master bathroom, tile marble, it tells you the product being installed, and this is at 4-inch spacing. Not every job needs to be done at 3-inch spacing, especially there's a difference between a bathroom that has 3 exterior walls with a bunch of exterior windows and has a skylight and a fireplace and has 20-foot ceilings.
Sounds like a
That,
really great bathroom.
yeah, but that really great bathroom is going to be cold because all those things that I brought up, exterior walls, windows, skylights, those all are heat loss problems, and that's heat escaping from the room. So a floor like this, if it were on that type of room, you would definitely want 3-inch spacing. But if this is on the second floor above the kitchen and it doesn't have any exterior walls, you don't need that density of watts. So you can do 4-inch spacing like they did here because they had a heated space below it. So that's the expertise that we will add, and we will say, hey, what kind of conditions do you have? How many exterior walls? How many windows you have? What floor are you going to be on? Is it over concrete? All that type of stuff will say, hey, you know what? You could probably get away with 4-inch spacing instead of 3, and then it costs you less.
Right. Definitely. It's a very great option. And I think it's something a lot of people don't consider or remember is an option. So it definitely is a good choice if you're, looking at a way to reduce cost or reduce the amount of energy used.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned all this stuff the hard way. I mean, I've gone out and people say, I put this in my bathroom and I can't get it warm. And I walk into the bathroom and it's a 20-foot ceiling with 3 exterior walls and a bunch of huge, gigantic windows. You would need a flamethrower in there to get that room warm because it's just all the heat loss that goes on in that space. So no 2 bathrooms are the same. So you don't need to install the same product.
Right. And we offer an electrical plan with our quotes that is really important to look over. It has all of the requirements outlined. So it's going to, again, show you exactly what kind of breaker size you'll need. It has all of the, like even the electrical consumption. It's going to tell you that. So it gives you a really good breakdown of the system itself.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, I like to bring up real world situations as much as possible because if somebody else learned a lesson, let's pass it on and everybody can not make the same mistake. And a lot of times with people assuming they need to use 240 in their bathroom when they don't. Another thing is they assume they need to use a GFCI circuit breaker. You do not, because National Electric Code says the floor must be GFCI protected. Well, that's fine, but the thermostat has the GFCI protection in it, so you don't need it in the breaker. And if you have a circuit breaker with GFCI in it, and if you have a thermostat with GFCI in it, they fight each other. When something on the circuit turns on, the other part will turn off and say, oh, there's trouble. There's trouble somewhere. Well, the problem is the supply line is going up and down. It's nothing on the other end. It's the supply side going up and down that the GFI sees it as leakage when it's not really leakage. And that's where we get calls from people. I just put your floor in, and every 3 or 4 hours, the GFCI light trips on the thermostat, or every other day, or every month. That's a nuisance, right? That's why they're called nuisance trips. So the first question we ask them is, do you have this on a GFCI circuit breaker? Why, yes, we were told we needed that. You don't need a GFCI circuit breaker because the GFCI protection is in the thermostat. So don't make that mistake too, because we see that all the time. So hopefully that'll save somebody a little bit of consternation.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of our controls that we offer work with pretty much all of our floor heating systems. So you can pick the control that works right for you and how you plan to actually be running the system kind of day in and day out. For 2025, we are offering a brand new Enjoy Wi-Fi thermostat. And this will really easily allow you to control that floor heating system using your smartphone. You won't even have to get up off the couch to turn it on or off, and you can program it from your phone as well. It's also paired with Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa, so it has some really great smart home capabilities.
And the next question is, does it work with Apple HomeKit? And the answer to that is no. It's not Apple HomeKit. It's Google Assistant and Amazon Electric. And don't worry, if you don't have your phone, you can still change the temperature of your floor by using the faceplate. So you don't completely lose that functionality.
Right, definitely. So our online tools are really designed to make our systems even easier to plan and understand. And one of these is our quote builder, and it gives you a very instant quote that's pretty reliable. And it's going to usually ask you for some information on the project itself. You'll have to input exactly the size of the space, the type of flooring, the type of subfloor, the type of room that you're going to be heating. And we can tell you with that a rough estimate based on the square footage of exactly which system you'll want to be purchasing.
And what I want to bring up here is, once again, look at the price differences. Okay,
Yes.
the price on the left is with the fixing strips or the grip strips, and the price on the right is with the membrane. If this floor doesn't require the membrane features, there's no reason to buy the membrane, and you are at, what is that, half price? Yes,
Mhm.
less than half the price. Not every job requires a membrane. But if yours does, we've got the product just for you. But if you don't need it, save some money and use the fixed strips, grip strips, and the cable. So there's a big difference.
Yes. Yes. Very good advice. We also offer an operating cost calculator, and I think this is a really great option for people, especially to kind of play around with on the site, because it's going to tell you exactly what the cost will be. There's kind of a common misconception that electric floor heating is very wasteful, or that it's not efficient, or that it costs quite a bit to run. And we can show you exactly based on your location and your system what you'll be paying per day, per month, and per year. We also offer a design tool. This is one of the, or really the first of its kind in the industry, and it's designed to make that planning of the space a lot simpler. It offers really unparalleled convenience, is a really great way to say that. I like how that's phrased, because you can create a digital replica of that room. You can put measurements in, you can choose fixtures, you can add, all of your dimensions, things like that, very easily right on the website and send it to us to be able to design a smart plan for you. We also offer a heat loss calculator. And Scott, this is a bit what you were talking about earlier about heat loss. We can actually determine based on some of those factors you had mentioned, such as exterior walls, windows, fireplaces, we can figure out whether or not your heating system is going to be enough heat to actually warm that full space. Scott, can you kind of tell us how we're able to do that?
Well, I want Brian to listen up. Listen up, Brian. We're talking to you here because Brian put a question in. This is what you're going to do in your room, Brian. If you're trying to replace a baseboard heater with floor heat, you definitely can, but you're going to have to put this in a heat loss calculation to find out the number of BTUs that it takes to heat your space to the temperature you want it to get. Because if your floor is small and needs a whole bunch of BTUs because of a bunch of heat loss, then that small floor may not generate enough BTUs to make that room warm. If that room is on the second floor with no exterior walls and no windows and no skylights and 8-foot ceilings, it would probably tell you, yeah, there's enough footage here to put enough electric floor heat in to give you enough BTUs to heat that space. So this is exactly what Brian is going to want to go to our heat loss calculator and find out if a 600-watt baseboard unit can be replaced with around 55 square feet of electric floor heating. People ask us all the time, will this work? And I go, if I could tell you that, I would be a bazillionaire. I can't. I can't tell you until we know what the R value of your insulation is, all that other stuff. There's just too many variables for me to say, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. And then you find out it's like, well, I was only heating a 2x3 floor, but my room's gigantic. Well, it's never going to work. So that is what you're going to do. You need to tell it how many windows you have, how many walls there are what these heat loss things are. And it will give you a report when you're all done that'll say this will work 99% of the time. When it's 30 below, you might need a space heater. Or it may say, oh, this is going to work for you all the time at the temperature you want it to get. It's all based on the BTUs the room needs and the BTUs that this product can provide.
Right. And really, we are here for you. That's our main thing. We want to make electric floor heating really as simple as possible for you, and we are here with you every step of the way. We are the pioneers in online project planning. As I said, we have the first of its kind room design tool online, and we also offer personalized account management. So once you start working with us, you'll have a dedicated account manager that'll actually walk you through every step of the way. We're not leaving you guessing. We're going to make sure that you get the products that you need. We also offer very fast turnaround. We try to get those customized floor heating plans back to you within 24 hours. And we also offer hassle-free returns. There's no restocking fees. And of course, you can always work directly with your account manager on that. We also offer 24/7 technical support, of which Scott is one of our fabulous members. And they are really, really the electrical, all radiant heating experts, all brands, all different types of flooring. You guys know exactly what to do. And it is available day or night. They are going to be there at your beck and call if you have any questions or issues.
Yeah, you'd be surprised or amazed at the number of phone calls we get concerning other brands of floor heating.
Yes.
We troubleshoot other brands of floor heating all the time, and usually that's because the customers have tried to reach that company, but no one returns their calls, or they don't have a call center like we do, and we end up talking about as much as we can. We don't know every point about every different. It's like quizzing a Chrysler repair guy on a Ford Focus. We know a lot about they know a lot about cars, but that one little sensor that the Ford has that the Chrysler doesn't, they're going to kind of scratch their head a little bit. But it's still, a car is a car, just like electric floor heat's electric floor heat. And we also offer tools to troubleshoot their floors that nobody else offers, and the expertise to do that. I've been repairing floors for about 16 or 17 years. And I'm not patting myself on the back here because I can't reach that far back anymore because of my bad shoulder. But the thing is, another common misconception is when somebody says my floor doesn't work, my electrician told me I have to rip the whole thing up and start over again. That is not true. You do not need to rip up your entire floor if something goes wrong, because we have tools that a lot of people are finding out about that can be used to find that exact spot on your floor that's bad. And then you can break the tile, lift it up, make the repair, and put a new tile down in place. You're not ripping up the whole floor. So that's one thing that has really come a long way. I can tell you when I went out and first did troubleshooting on these floors, I used to take these big sheets of thermal paper and lay them on the floor and move them around to see which spots were warm. Now we just use a camera, right? Because back then a thermal camera was $5,000 or $6,000. Now you can buy one for your Apple iPhone for $100. So things have really changed, but we have that kind of experience. Everybody on the team, there are people on the team that have been here longer than I have. So if you don't have a Warmly Yours product and you need to get it fixed, we have a lot of people that work with us around the country that we can hopefully refer you to. We also have tools that you can rent to if you want you or your electrician to do it yourself. So we have made great strides in this industry that a lot of other companies are nowhere near. So we take a lot of pride on that, and I'm still going to try to pat myself on the back there, but I just can't do it.
I'd do it for you. All right. So I know that we had gotten a few questions ahead of time. I also saw we had one come in during the presentation, starting with Jerry's question. He asked about wood floors and heating effectiveness. So can we kind of talk, Scott, a little bit about, what goes into heating a wood floor and what that actually looks like?
Well, first of all, I can tell you, I put one of these in a floor here in Northern Illinois under a 3/4 inch oak floor, nail down floor. And they turn that product on in the fall and leave it on the same temperature all the way through the heating season. And then when the heating season goes away, they drop the temperature down a couple degrees every day until it goes off. It gives you a nice even heat. The thing about hardwood floors, the thing about carpeting, the thing about LVT is they all have one thing in common, sometimes more than one thing, but that is a temperature limit. These products will say you can use radiant heat, but it can't go over 84 or under or over 82. And the temperature cannot have a setback. You can't go from 82 down to 70 every day. You can't go 82, 70 at night, 82, 70 at night. You set it to 82 and you keep it that way the whole year long. And those are the kind of rules. So the thing is, and I'm so glad you asked it, if I'm going to be doing a 3 or 4 season room off the back of my house, first of all, I wish I had that much money. I would love to do that because we have the room for it, but just don't have the green stuff to do it. But that particular job, if you need to get a lot of heat into a space, you don't want to be using a product that is only throttled down to 82 or 84, because a tile floor, you can heat up to 90, 100, whatever you want it to get. So that's going to be able to deliver unthrottled heat into that space, whereas a wood floor or carpet or laminate or LVT is going to be putting heat into the room, but only if the floor gets to 82 or 84. So a floor heat job like that, I would say definitely use tile. But if you're in a living room, and the house that I did had a 2-story living room. So it was the people were always cold at the floor was always cold, and all the heat was upstairs. You can't see my arm because it goes ways up there, but the heat was always up there. So what we did is we put it in the floor, and now everybody sits with their socks off, with their feet on the floor, or they lay on the floor because that's where the heat of that room is. It's right there where you want it. And that's a 3/4 inch oak floor that's a nailed down application that they absolutely love. So it is a great source of heat. However, keep in mind the throttling down. It can only get to a certain temperature where tile can get hotter, which would be allowing more temperature into the room. That's probably where you got the mixed messages. And hopefully I alleviated some of those mixed messages, because it's not always black and white. You have to think about the gray. So I hope that answered your question, Jerry.
All right. And I know we had gotten a couple others, right, Scott?
Yes. They were looking, and I think it might be Jerry again. And Jerry was 2-timing us here. He got in early, like we always suggest you do. Get those questions in advance in case you can't make it. Then you can watch the recording. Looking to review floor heating for basements, including hardwood. So we know hardwood is a great thing because it gives you heat from the floor up to the ceiling. I know in my basement that my floors are cold because I have a forced air system. The heat blows down about 3/4 of the way and then goes right back up upstairs. So this is going to give you that nice warm floor, that even heating throughout your basement space. So I hopefully we got both of those for you there, Jerry. And Howard had that question about going to a different brand and not enjoying that experience. So he wants to get back in touch with us again. And I think Brad, we talked about Brad's question already. I want to understand and compare product options for radiant heating for a small bathroom. I'm also interested in understanding how difficult it would be to install it as a DIY project. And that's great because we have well, not zillions, but a lot of videos that show regular people doing these installations. Most of the time, this whole thing can be a DIY except for the electrical part, which is where you should have a professional electrician do the circuit wiring and the attaching the thermostat to the circuit and attaching the heater to the thermostat. But in most cases, this is done as a DIY project. And there are a bunch of videos out there that show how to do that. So those were the questions that we had ahead of time. So thank you for sending those in. And we appreciate that because it gives us something to talk about.
I think that was all we got ahead of time, so we should be good there. Um, our next webinar is in February. This will be February 13th at 1 o'clock right here on Zoom. It's going to be me and Scott talking about the perfect solutions for a spa bathroom. So if you are looking for a, really spa-like experience, this is going to be a great webinar for you. We also offer additional training, again, usually me and Scott. So hopefully you like our faces and voices because you will be seeing a lot of us. But we all are also here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays at 4 p.m. We offer additional training. They're generally shorter sessions, and you're welcome to pop in, ask any questions you have, and we can definitely chat about your project.
Yeah, like on Wednesdays, we talk about common issues for people doing their first installation.
Right.
Like common questions, like, can I cut the heating cable? No. Can I do this? Yes or no? What is the best thing to do here? So it's all those questions that we get every single day on the phone. And it's for people that have not done it before because we deal a lot with people that have never installed this product before. So that's what we do. And that's what these are for.
Yep, absolutely. We're also offering a 30% discount on select towel warmers, so be sure to check that out on our website. And of course, you can always visit our website day or night, learn lots more information about our products. You can also email us or give us a call. We will be more than happy to chat with you and make sure that you can get your electric floor heating project off the ground the right way. And I think that is all we have today, Scott. So we can sign off for now. Thank you so much for joining me again, or joining us, I should say. My name is Lynn, and I was joined today, of course, by the wonderful Scott. And we hope to see you next time.